Hello. So while we're napping, I thought I would do my story or tell what happened about the night I got shot. Like actually what happened, not necessarily, my thoughts and my feelings and my testimony part, but the actual, like, what happened and what led up to it and that sort of thing. So I'll start with, my name is Samantha. It is January 20th, 2026. I am 37 years old, and I was shot February 4th, 2019, at the age of 30 by the guy I was dating at the time, Lucas. So we'll start that morning. We were coming off of an argument that happened, a couple of days before, and we had decided that, we would have kind of like a date night. We were going to go over to his property and stay the night there. He had a little camper out there. And we were going to plant some seeds in the greenhouse. Like I said, it was February 4th, so it was a good day. It was warm. I wore shorts. And not only were we going to do that, we were going to do like a little fish fry. We were going to take some fish and fries and make some hush puppies and just kind of camp out and have a good night. So, we were loading things up in the vehicle, and I started putting things in my car, and he was like, I thought we were going to take my car, just one vehicle over there. And I was like, nah, I need to go to town and get some nicotine, some cigarettes. I'll just meet you over there. I didn't see an issue with that. And then he was like, fine, that's fine, whatever. And I was like, okay. So he was like, well, I'll stop at the liquor store on the way and I'll grab us something to drink. We planned on frying fish and having some drinks and that kind of thing. I went to town, got cigarettes, went out there. Well, so his property was kind of off the road. So you had the highway. This is about 6 miles out of town, 6.5 miles or so. And it's down a dirt road, and then there's this big field that they have wheat and cotton in, and at the end of the field, if you were, like driving it, there's like a field road or whatever, like, when they go to check the fences or whatever. So pretty much we turned down that off of the dirt road up into the field. It's not maintained road at all. And it goes back, and then there's like this pasture area that's unfarmable, and it's a couple acres, and that was his land, was this pasture area in between all these fields, these plowed fields. And he had drug like a big large like shipping container out there, and he had a couple of trailers, and he had a little pop-up RV camper type thing. I think it was just like a pool behind, not too big, probably 24 so feet, somewhere around there. We got out there. Well, he was already, actually, he beat me there, but like as I turned down the road, he was turning into the field. Like I said, I came from town because I had to go get cigarettes, and he had stopped at the liquor store, which is kind of like right across the street, like the main highway. So my car, I had this little Ford Taurus. It couldn't get all the way onto his property. I could drive down like the fence line, that field road, but from the field road to like where his property, like his driveway, it was like unfarmable land, so there was like a little creek that ran right there, and my car just, it couldn't make it through that. So I would just drive to the end of the field, and then I would kind of walk the rest of the way. And so I had the pillows and the blankets and stuff like that in my car. So I parked my car at the end of the field, right at the edge of his property. Started taking stuff into the camper, blankets and pillows and all that good stuff. And he had drove his truck up in there, and he was unloading his stuff, which he brought, propane and the frying pan thing and the fish and, the seeds and all the other little things that we decided to take. And, I'm in there, and I'm kind of getting the bed made, and he's starting the fryer and getting that going and seasoning the fish and the fries and cutting the potatoes to make fries. And when I got done with that, I started making the tartar sauce. And he was drinking this whole time. I hadn't drank anything at that point. Honestly, I hadn't done anything at that point. At that time in my life, I did smoke daily, but I was not stoned in that moment. Like, I hadn't smoked that day. And then, so I kind of got done with everything, and he was like, I poured you a drink. And I was like, okay. And I like banana 99, I like the banana vodka. And he had just poured like a shot or two in a glass and then filled it up with water. Honestly, I kind of like drinking it that way. It may sound weird, but I took a sip. I can't chug it. It was a drink. It wasn't like to drink. I never was seeking to get like drunk. I was just casually drinking. I took like a drink or two, and we were just sitting there, and he's got the fire going, the fish is in, and we're just talking, started off really pleasant, really nice, and we were just, he had been drinking for a while at this point, and I could tell that he was starting to feel it, starting to slur his words and things like that. And we started talking about someone I used to work with, and he's like, oh, you know that person? And I was like, yeah. And then, he went off and said something, and then I was like, oh man, there was this one time, and I went to start telling like a story, and he kind of like cut me off, and so I stopped talking, let him finish, and I went back to telling the story, and then he did the same thing, cut me off, and that kind of thing. And he did that a couple times, and I started to get a little frustrated. Honestly, I was just like, let me finish my story, or it did kind of upset me. Well, that started the fight. That is the thing that started the fight that night. And I was just like, it's kind of rude to keep cutting me off. I finally said something, about it. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. And then I'd start talking, and then he would interrupt, and then he'd laugh, and I was like, I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't even freaking care anymore. I'm not telling, I don't care. And then he just, oh, come on, tell me. And I was just like, no, because you keep interrupting me. And he's like, just tell me. And so I started to tell him again. Well, he interrupted. So at that point, I was ticked. I was like, okay, I'm not even having fun anymore. This is not cool. This is rude. I'm like, I'm going to go get the plates, and I'm going to start, getting ready, because he was taking the stuff off. All that we had left at this point was the fries, which wasn't going to take long, and so I was like, I'm going to start plating, putting the fish, on a plate, like let the grease kind of come off onto the paper towel, seasoning anything. So I went in and I was like, I don't even want to talk to him. Like, he made me so angry. And he hollers, he's like, bring me a brown sack, for the fries. And I was like, I already did. It's literally sitting right next to you. I set it on the ground, and he's like, bring it to me. And so I get up and I grab the bag and I walk outside, pick up the bag from right next to him at his feet, and hand it to him. And I don't know, he got pissed off or something, or I don't know. Like I said, he had been drinking, so he was definitely and I don't know, like, what flipped at that moment. But he, like, threw the little spatula thing that he was using to get the stuff out of the grease, like, just out in the yard. And, like, got up real fast, kicked his drink over, and stormed into the trailer and went back to the bedroom and lay down on the little bed. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is this guy doing? Why is he acting like a child? And so I go find the little scooper and I scoop out all the stuff, and it's late. It's, I don't know, 9 o'clock or so, 8:30, 9, 10, I had no idea. It was late. Sun was down, still in my shorts, so it still wasn't too cold. And then, I turned the fire off, and I went into the trailer and set everything kind of on the little bar in the kitchen area, and I walked back there to the bedroom where he was. And I told you that we had gotten into a fight a couple days before. Well, the end of that fight, I was going to leave, but he convinced me that he loved me and that I should stay, and that we need to talk to each other when we have disagreements and arguments, and just to make sure that he's paying attention. And so at that time I decided, well, I will do what he said. I'm going to try to get his attention and we'll talk this out. And so he was laying on the bed, his head was down like this, and I just kind of shook up and I was like, hey, let's talk about this. Like, what's going on? And he started, just kind of like took the pillow, put it over his head, and was like, nah, 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 nah. And golly, at this point, I was really, really frustrated because he is like legitimately acting like a freaking spoiled brat, like a kid. And I'm like, I'm trying to do what he told me to do. I'm trying to get his attention. And so I kind of like take his shoulder, I kind of like try to like roll him over to where he can look at me so I can like, look, I'm trying to do what you said. I wasn't aggressive. I mean, like, I rolled him over, but I wasn't doing it out of like harmfulness, hatefulness, like no true force. But he jumped up and he grabbed me by my throat with like 2 hands. And he was like shoved me up against the back of the RV, and he was just squeezing, and his eyes were just so angry. Like, and, at first I was like trying to get his hands off my throat, and I couldn't. And, unfortunately, I've been in situations like that in the past, not with him per se, but just I've witnessed things in my life. And I kind of knew that the more I struggled and fought, the worse it would be for me. So I kind of just let my arms drop and I just stared at him in the eye, and he finally let go. And that first breath hurt, and I walked outside of the camper, and I kind of just fell to the ground. And I was crying. I was so upset, and like, it's hard not to explain this part without telling you what I was thinking. But put my hands in the dirt, and I was just kind of letting it fall through my hands, and I was looking up at the stars, and I was just lost. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Like, I did have love for him, I loved him, and I wanted it to work, I wanted it to work, but I always told myself I wouldn't be in that kind of relationship because I saw that kind of relationship. And I didn't want that for me. I'm sorry, guys. I remember, kind of praying, and it's weird because at that point I didn't believe in God. I didn't. I got mad at anybody who talked about God. I remember looking up and just being like, what do I do, God? If there is a God, whatever you are, what do I do? And I just, in my heart, knew I needed to leave. I needed to leave. And I got up, and I should have just walked away, walked down the driveway to my car. I should have just done that. I should have just left. I should have followed that intuition that I had, or whatever. But I went back inside because we had just gotten out of an argument a couple days ago, and I tried to leave, and he tried to convince me to stay, and I wanted him to know, there's no convincing me this time, I'm done. But I was gonna come get my things, I was leaving now, but I'd be back because my dogs were at his house, and everything I own, all my clothes, everything was there, and so I went back in, and I was planning on just standing there and, having that conversation, look, we're done. But when I walked back in, he was like, just do it. He was still heated, and I played into it, and just do what? He's like, just do it. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, just fucking do it. I deserve it. And I was like, look, motherfucker, there's a lot of things I want to do. Right now, I'm done. I'm over. This is over. We are done. And there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can say. We are over. And I'll be back tomorrow. I'm gonna get my shit. We're done. And if I have to, I'll get the cops. And they're gonna believe me. And I grabbed the lantern, and I walked out. Sorry. It's really hard because I know that what I said, I intended to hurt him with my words. I wanted him to hurt. He just hurt me. My heart was broken. I loved him, and he hurt me. I just didn't know that those words were gonna make him do what he did next. So I started walking to my car. And I had got all the way past like the shipping container when I walked the whole length of the shipping container. And I was walking through like where the little creek thing was. And that's when I heard the noise, and it felt like I got punched in the back. And I turned around and I screamed. I said, like, what the fuck? And then he shot again. And then I screamed his name, like, Lucas. And then he shot again. And I said, you got me. And then he shot again. And I fell. The first time he shot me, it was in my back. And I turned when I screamed, and he got my arm. And then, the second time, he got my ear. I got a tattoo to try to hide it. And then the fourth time, he got me in the hip, and that's why I fell. I was on the ground and he was standing over me. He was walking up to me with the gun pointed at me. I was crying. Obviously, I'm crying now. It's kind of... I said, please put it down. Put the gun down. He said no at first. I said, please, I need to set it down. I asked him. I said, I need to go to the doctor. I need to go. He said, no. I said, please. I said, you got me. He said, where? And I said, I don't know, because I didn't know where. I just knew I had been shot. And I could feel the blood running down my neck and my face. I thought he got me in the head. And I couldn't stand. I wrapped my arms around his legs, and I started kissing his feet. I started begging for him to let me go, to let me get help. And he kept saying no. I asked him, I said, am I gonna die? And he said, probably. I'll be back. Sorry. It's really hard for me to talk about all the details. Eventually, in the pleaing, he said, let me go get my truck. I'll take you to my house and I'll get you fixed up. I said, okay. And he set this lantern down next to me. And it was on. And he turned around and he picked the gun back up. I know how many shells were in that gun that day. I know there were 4, and that was it. He unloaded that whole gun on me. He wasn't going to take me to the doctor. And he set the light down right where I was laying. My gut told me to run, but I couldn't stand. As soon as he turned around and picked up that gun, I rolled over on my stomach and I crawled and pulled the grass and dug my fingers into the dirt, trying to get to my car, which I wasn't that far away from at this point because I had walked most of the way there. I opened the door and I pulled myself up in there. And I put it in drive and turned around real fast. And I said I didn't have a cell phone at this time. Well, I mean, I had one, just no minutes on it. But it was in my car somewhere. It was thrown somewhere in my car. And I floored it. I floored it. And I was just on that field road, and it was rough. I remember slamming, hitting something and slamming down. I heard this horrible popping noise. But I just kept going. And I'm digging in the floorboard, and I'm looking for my phone. And I'm so afraid. And I find my phone, and it's dead, powered off. I power it on, and there's one little bitty line of a battery, red, and I didn't know how long I had, but I called 911, and I'm driving at the same time, and I can't use my left arm, and I don't know how I'm doing all of this, because I don't have a left arm. I mean, I have it, but, it's immobile. My left leg is immobile. This whole side of me was just dead to me in that moment. God, it wasn't a stick shift, right? But I'm calling 911, and I'm driving, and I'm having a really hard time controlling the vehicle, and I get on the highway. I get on the dirt road, and then I get on the highway, and I'm heading towards town. Like I said, I'm 6.5 miles out, and the operator picks up, and I don't really know exactly what she said. From this point on, I'm not going to say that it's blurry, but it's blurry. Because I remember a lot. But the finer details, the conversation, not too much. I remember, telling her that I was out by the liquor store, and I was headed to town, and I was going 100 miles an hour, and I've been shot. And then, she started asking questions where were you shot? I don't know. Who shot you? I don't want to say. I was so afraid. I was afraid to even give them his name, because then, I don't know. I was so afraid. And she said, okay, stay on the phone. I'm going to have the police set up, so you can come in. And where are you at now? And I told her where I would be at. I'm coming into town, okay? And then, there was cops, at the light in town, keeping traffic as I'm flying to the hospital. I was going 100 miles an hour through town. And I get to the hospital, and there's a police officer there, Harry. And throw it in drive. I couldn't even pull into the parking spot. I couldn't turn the wheel to pull into the parking spot. And I can't. I try to get out of the car, and I can't. My leg and so this man picks me up and puts me in a wheelchair and takes me in, and I get in, and they take me right back. And the cops are there, and everyone in the hospital is there, and they're cutting my clothes off of me, and I was scared, I was embarrassed, and they were asking who did it, and I was afraid to say his name. Finally, I told him, and what was he driving? Where was it at? And they went and looked for him. And while I was in the hospital, I remember overhearing a nurse or someone out in the lobby area, or the front or outside the door. So I just remember someone saying, "He's here." And in my mind, I was freaking out, thinking Lucas was there. He was chasing me, and he was going to try to finish everything and try to just kill me, just finish his job, because I truly thought that's what he was going to do. I truly think that when he picked up that gun and went back to the trailer to get his truck to take me home to fix me up, he was gonna get more ammo, and I truly feel like he was gonna kill me and hide me, bury me. We were out in the middle of nowhere. There was no lights, there was no street lights, there was nobody there. That's what happened. That's what happened leading up to me getting shot. I'll make another video kind of talking about some of the other details of this, because there's a lot of things go through your mind when you're begging for your life. Someone tells you that you're gonna die. What do you think? They're chasing you? A lot of things run through your mind. Thank you for listening.